Hello friends! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin and I'm the author of the new book, Twin Flame Romance, The Journey to Unconditional Love. Now available in paperback, Kindle, and around October 16th in Audible books. So as you can see, this is the paperback copy. If you are currently reading Twin Flame Romance and have not yet left a review on Amazon, once you leave a review and the review is posted, go ahead and take a screenshot, email it to me, and I will give you a free Audible copy of Chakra Healing for Vibrant Energy, which is totally awesome and very much in relation to healing and opening up to higher states of consciousness. Now, if you want to book a reading with me, 30, 60, or 90-minute reading, you can email me at michellefondinauthor@gmail.com, and the links are below as well. Today, we are talking about your DM and what your DM wants more than your love. This came to me because I was actually reading a book. I was previewing a book for an acquaintance, a fellow author, and there was a statement in there that says that what people really want more than love is your understanding. And so I really chewed on this statement for a little while. It made so much sense at the moment. The actual moment that I read it, it made total sense. And I've been chewing over it, as I said, for about 2 weeks now, and I knew I needed to make a video about this. I knew it had to do with the divine masculine, and I just didn't know how I was going to present it or go about it. And so I let my angels and guides kind of guide me into how I was going to present this topic, because it's a really sensitive one. Honestly, it's super duper sensitive, and I want to make sure that you guys get the right message and not the wrong interpretation of this message. That is super important. So throughout this journey, and I know this is really hard, and the reason for the big sigh is that this is something I've obviously struggled with since I met my twin flame, who is the divine masculine. I am the divine feminine. If you have not yet viewed my videos, if this is your first time, welcome. So I am the divine feminine. My twin flame is the divine masculine. And in the beginning, I really did not understand his behavior. Super duper did not understand it at all. It seemed like the behavior that he was displaying in some respects was totally counter to the way he was acting toward me, if that made sense. So I could tell he was falling for me. I could tell he was in love with me. I could tell like he had really great feelings toward me, but like all of his words were kind of like, in the beginning, yes, his words and his actions were congruent. And then as soon as we really integrated together, meaning like we started like dating, kind of, we got together, we, saw each other. As soon as that happened, his behavior, so his actions, like the way he looked at me and the way he acted toward me was the same, but his words started to be completely different. And so it was there that the understanding of what was going on with him, it totally stumped me, and it placed me in the darkness, because I saw the way he looked at me, yet his words did not reflect what his eyes were telling me, if you will. And I know a lot of you guys can relate. A lot of you guys who are divine feminines with your divine masculine can totally relate to that. And so the easiest thing for me was to judge his behavior and his words and like not understand him at all, but assess a meaning to what he was saying and doing. So it was really, really hard for me in the beginning. And then the more I went along this journey and the more I went forward on this path and began to have my own spiritual enlightenment, which is really funny. As I mentioned in previous videos, I was on the path towards spiritual enlightenment for a long time. I had my first real awakening. Now I had one in my teens, but then I had like a secondary real awakening probably around the year 2002 maybe. I want to say it started around 2002 where I started having this really huge awakening, and then it just kind of continued from there. Like it kind of like backtracked and then it went forward So I've been on this like spiritual path toward enlightenment for a really, really long time, and I never realized that the growth wasn't done yet. So when I met my twin, it just fast-tracked that. And I guess I just never really, in relationships, I had a really hard time understanding the other person. And a lot of times there were behaviors that were unacceptable. There were behaviors that were really confusing and incongruent, I think is the best word. And I even told my divine masculine that at one point. I said, you know, you're totally incongruent, which he was totally incongruent. Like I said, his words were one thing, and then his actions and the way he looked at me and the way he acted toward me were totally something else. It was totally, totally different. You could tell a total incongruence. And that left me so confused that I just didn't understand him. And it was so hard for me because I felt all these feelings for me. Like I felt the heart chakra opening. I felt like crazy amounts of love when I was around him. And I know he felt it too. I know, like, I could just tell. I know he felt it. And he was totally denying it 100%. And so it was really easy for me to get angry with him. It was really easy for me to get totally, totally frustrated and angry and really upset with him. And this like lasted for a while where I was just like, I don't understand your behavior. Like, I don't understand why you're doing the things that you're doing or saying the things that you're saying. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And so I think that even though he at the time, did not have the courage to explain to me how he was feeling fully, to tell me what was going on, that I needed to tune into him, into his energy field, because since he's my twin flame, I can do that. And same thing with your twin flame. With your twin flame, you can tune into their energy field and you can see where they're at, and you can see like why they're behaving in the way that they're behaving, and not judge them for it, but try to understand them for it. And so it was an evolution, you guys. Let me just tell you that. It was a total evolution. It's been taking months for me to be able to come around to like this understanding of him. And it's really hard. I understand how hard it is, because when they are ghosting you or rejecting you on the outside, right? So in the 3D world, if they're ghosting you, if they're rejecting you, if they're not showing you signs of interest, if they're not calling you, texting you, asking you out on a date or whatever, like it can be so easy to fall into those negative patterns of like, oh, they just don't care. They just don't care about me. And the thing is, I even texted that to my divine masculine, like my twin flame. I was like, you do not care about me at all. You hate me. And like, that was the common theme, as I was just like, why are you behaving this way? And like, his response was like, no, I don't hate you. Like, I care about, and like, he was always very vague and very general, you know. It was always like, I care about everybody in the whole wide world, you know. So, okay, fine. But I think it was just like not understanding his point of view and where he was coming from and the reasons why he was doing the things that he was doing. And I think that's where the place of non-understanding was, is that I was accusing him, I was judging him, I was judging his thoughts and behaviors toward me because I didn't understand where he was coming from. So it was really hard. So that's why I said that, like, this video, I've struggled with it because it really took me a while to like figure out that if he had certain behaviors toward me, even though like I could tell that he has love for me, and he still does, but I can tell he has love for me, and he still does, and he still cares about me, and he still wants to be with me, but I had to really understand from where the behavior was coming. Like, I had to understand that place of, it was coming from mostly, and this is for most divine masculines, it's coming from a place of deep rooted fear, like really fear, but there's a lot of different reasons for that fear. So the fear could be just like fear of inadequacy, fear of not feeling worthy, fear of not deserving you, fear of commitment, fear of being vulnerable, fear of being hurt. So there are a lot of different reasons why your divine masculine might be afraid. And so also there's like things that are happening behind the scenes as well that we can't even see. So maybe it's just like they did the things that they did because they weren't ready to come into reunion with you. So it's like maybe they had to get their finances in order. Maybe they had to break up with a relationship they were in, or change a job, or change a living situation. So there are reasons behind the scenes that you may not be well aware of. So it's really, like I said, it's really hard to come to that place of understanding, but that's what they need. They need you to really, really understand them and keep an open mind toward them, and not have assumptions of where they are and what their feelings are and what their thoughts are about you. And I know, like I said, it's hard. And really that all comes from a place of non-judgment. And honestly, I'm going to do a whole video on judgment and non-judgment and how to go about not judging, if that makes sense. But you can say I love you all day long to someone, but if you don't extend that understanding, it's not worth it to them. Does that make sense? And like inversely, I think there are times throughout our journey together for my twin flame, and honestly, oh, I can actually think of one. So there was a point at which I expressed to my divine masculine that we were soul connected, and it was pretty early in the journey. It was like probably a couple months into our journey together. And I noticed he was pushing me away. I know he was starting to push me away, actually, and I got really freaked out. I totally got freaked out, because at that point, I had really understood how soul connected we were. I was starting to understand the twin flame concept, but I didn't totally understand it. At that time, it wasn't very long ago though. We're talking about close to a year ago, maybe about 10 months ago. Even at that time, about 10 months ago, there wasn't a whole lot of information on twin flames out there. I think it was just creeping up. Like things were starting to open up, and more people were starting to write about it and produce videos about it. It was pretty early on in our journeys. I had texted him something to the sort of, here's a video on twin flames. This is what I found. We are very soul connected, and I feel like this is what we are. And I know, because he kept saying something to the sort of like, this is really intense. It gets too intense. It's very intense, which a lot of twin flame divine masculines will say, because it is intense, right? That's the bottom line. It's an intense connection. I was noticing he was pulling away. I was getting really scared, because I knew we had this soul connection, and I was just learning about it and learning to understand it. And so I was offering information to him. Like I was offering information, like, here you go. Here's a video you can watch. Like, we are very soul connected. I think this is what we are. I'm feeling this. The intensity, I feel that the intensity is not me personally. I feel the intensity is the energy between us. That's what I feel the intensity is about. So maybe you could check this out, and like, maybe you could give me feedback on it. And he like responded to me with something like, oh, stop acting weird, or stop sending me weird texts. And the thing is, like, for me, that was like soul crushing. And here's what was soul crushing. And it all goes back to understanding, right? It all goes back to understanding. It was soul crushing to me, not because he responded that way, but because I felt misunderstood. I felt that he did not understand me. He didn't understand the place that I was coming from. He didn't understand that I was coming from a place of love and confusion. And like, I know we have something special. I'm just learning to understand it. I'm just offering this to you so that you can try to understand it too. And the response from him was a non-understanding. It was like, it was just a judgment. It was a judgment. It was saying that I'm weird, and my texts were weird, and my approach was weird. And so, and that was the reason why it hurt so badly, because I felt like, oh my God, he doesn't understand me at all. Like, he doesn't get it. He doesn't get me. I think it's really, really easy for us in turn to do that to our divine masculine as well, to judge him fully, because we don't understand his motives. We don't understand why he's doing the things that he's doing, or the things that he's not doing if he's not talking to us. But I think it's really important that we extend the love. So important. We extend that unconditional love. So important. And then beyond that, beyond the unconditional love and the extension of the unconditional love, that we really strive to step out of our self-centered place, because sometimes we can get there. Totally cool. I get there too. But we can step out of our self-centered place and try to put ourselves in our twins' shoes and try to understand where they're coming from. Try to understand the hurt, the pain, the suffering, the childhood wounds, the feelings that they might be feeling that are just like maybe feelings of insecurity, and throwing in, like, casting a shadow of doubt that you know exactly how they're feeling inside, because you don't really know exactly how they're feeling inside as far as the reasons behind some of the things that they have said, the reasons behind some of the things they did or did not do. And it's just striving to get to that place. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying you'll get there tomorrow, but it's really striving to get to that place. So one of the exercises that I've done, and I've shared this with you guys, that I've done to just really try to get to that place, is going into quiet meditation, going into silence, talking to my twin in the 5D to really get him to open up on a more spiritual level to me, as far as to exactly what's going on, what's happening in his life, and really more our connection. So just understanding the place that he's coming from when it comes to our connection. And because you're so connected, you can do this. You do have to, like, be gracious about it though. Like, ask permission to communicate with your twin in the 5D. Let them speak to you. Don't try to force answers out of them. They will speak to you through your intuition. And the more you practice, the more you'll understand your twin's voice versus your own voice. And it's a really beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful thing that can give you some peace and solace in this journey, which is so incredibly difficult sometimes. And I understand that it can be frustrating. I understand that it can be difficult. In my final words, let me just say this to you. Abuse of any type is never, ever, 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 ever acceptable. Okay? So we're talking about physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse. So when I'm talking about understanding the place that they are coming from, I am talking about all the rest of the stuff. Does that make sense? You know, it's funny, I've been actually listening to another twin flame reader, and she has a really interesting perspective that I had never thought about. Now, in my beginning videos, and this is something that I channeled, like one of the first videos, I can't even remember for the life of me which one it was. In one of my first videos on twin flames, I did say, your twin will never hurt you. Your twin will never hurt you, will never voluntarily hurt you. Your twin flame loves you unconditionally, and they will never do anything to hurt you. Voluntarily, they might inadvertently hurt you or do something they didn't mean to do because they weren't really aware of what they were doing, but they will never hurt you outrightly with malice. This reader who I've listened to, and she also mirrors that, and she says, if there is abuse in this she says, if there's abuse in this connection, then this is not a twin flame connection, because the divine masculines in this collectivity will not hurt their divine feminines. And really, I wholeheartedly believe that. But I know some of you are not only on a twin flame journey. Some of you might be on a soulmate journey as well, which, you know, is something a little bit different. But even if you can understand why abuse might happen, it's not acceptable. Okay, always walk away from it, get help, go away, do something to get out of that situation. That is never, ever, ever, ever acceptable. Okay, and I know my twin flame would never hurt me. Now, inadvertently, has he hurt me? Yes, of course he has, but I know it was never voluntary. I know he never voluntarily hurt me. And we're talking about hurting my feelings. We're not talking about anything else, right? But yeah, so just strive to understand, continue to love them unconditionally, and really try to take yourself out of that space of should, would, right? So like, they should have responded like this. He should have said this. He should have done this, okay? Try to take yourself out of that, because with all of that is judgment. And so you really want to take yourself out of that place of judgment, put yourself into a space of understanding that you don't know the entire picture. You don't know the whole picture. You don't know what is going on in their lives completely, okay? So Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Hit the bell for notifications. Thank you for sharing this video with other twin flames. And thank you for buying a book or 2 or 3 and then going to my Amazon store. I'm gonna put the link below so you can shop on my Amazon store. There's a lot of books and recommendations, yoga products, chakra products, all kinds of things, all kinds of fun things that help to support this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.